presentation probably like 6 months ago, and I told Bonnie I've got it reserved, and I talked to her on Friday. She didn't have one planned. I said, yes, I can do it. I get home, and it's like, it says this program has been deleted. You can't open it. So I found it in the cloud, but it's saved an earlier version. So I feel like I'm missing some slides. But anyway, we were busy this weekend, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on it. And then I printed out things this morning, read through it. Somehow I left like 2 pages at home. So I'll just figure that out as I think they're at the end. I hope those are the ones that are at the end. So this is it. And now is my mouse not working? Okay. So I kind of feel like I'm just sort of jinxed here when you start on this one. And my little thing is not at the bottom, so I'm just going to have to scroll up again. Okay, so this is it. The history of televisions and the Jackson County businesses that sold them. A1 TV and Appliance. Owners were Arnold and Bev Coranda. They had purchased the business from Yeager's. Their longtime employees were Sarah Sanger, Karen Schwenker, and they sold RCA. Bellevue TV and Appliance. My husband and I were the owners. Pat Fear was one of our managers, and that business was open from 1989 to 1991. We sold Sylvania and Zenith Television. And this building where that was located, you can see it in the picture there, the brick. You see that plaque just in between Jim and Pat? That is the site of the original site of the Bellevue War. That's not the building. I think it was a wooden structure that was there at that time. Bowman TV and Appliances, 1957 ad. They sold Admiral televisions. Owner Milt Bowman also sold appliances. The business was located at 117 South 2nd Street, where it was later Montgomery Ward's, then Mickles, then Mayberry TV and Appliance, and lastly, Appliance Solutions. Cornelius Radio Shop. Now I've also included the people that sold radios. I don't know if he was in business in the later years to where he actually sold televisions. And his phone number was 143, so there's that. Give you an idea of maybe when they were in business. And they advertised that they had RCA radios. Bob Driscoll Hardware in Preston. Yeah. Sold GE televisions. And then being a hardware store, you know, he was pretty diversified.
I signed it.
My mother rented that Sanders.
Oh, she did?
She was off the floor.
Oh. Gamble's advertised themselves as the friendly store. You could make monthly payments with just $10 down. And I think the business was operated between 1946 and 1982, but I could be off a little bit on that. And the owners were Bob Spady, Dean LeClaire, and Barney Hager. 1950s advertisement. Tube Saver extends tube life by limiting damaging power shock to cold tubes. Short picture tube, compact, provides new picture brilliance and sleek cabinet design. Hi-fi speakers, slim styling. The cabinet depth is only 16 3/4 inches deep. Available in limed oak finish or rich mahogany. Buy the 17-inch Coronado portable TV for just $139.95. And that's only $1.90 a week, which you pay monthly. And the stand, $6.95. stock heating and refrigeration, sold television similar to this one pictured in the early to late 60s. I found ads for their business ranging from 1961 to 69. So they could have been in business earlier or later. Or maybe they're still, does anybody know, are they still in business? Passed down or something. Jerry Miller Electronics in Macokota sold Setchel Carlson TVs. They featured top tuning and high fidelity sound. And look at the picture. I don't know if you can read that. It says picture and it says sound. You know, because I guess before there used to maybe just sound. They didn't want somebody to be confused that this was just sound in the picture. Giddings Radio Service in Preston sold Spartan and Motorola TVs. A 1950 advertisement is shown on the left.
We had Bucks TV too.
Bucks TV.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was afraid I'd probably miss some, because like I said, I lost some of the slides. And I knew, as it was, I'd probably already have too many, so. Grunwald's first began selling appliances and TVs under the name Penrose Annex. That location was on East Platte Street. The business also was located on the corner of 2nd and West Platte. Grunwald TV and Appliance operated under that name from 1983 to 1993. And it says at their, this is reading from that, at their present street location. And that's, I believe, where Copper Cardinal Outdoor Patio is. That was that old photography. What was the name of that photography? Cundles. That was Cundles, okay. After Gene passed away, Thelma and Sam continued the business. They sold GE televisions. From 1993 to 1997, they operated under the name of Grunwald Appliance and Radio Shack, located at 130 West Platte. My dad, just before I was going away to college for the first year, he took me to Sam's house and we went to his garage and he had used TVs. And so I got my first of my own TV to take to college with me. And it looked probably something like that. I don't remember what we paid for it, but I'm thinking like $50, I don't know. It's been a while. Hicks's TV sold Philco TVs. Bernice and Darrell built a store and ran the business until 1956, when John and Gladys Larkey leased the building until 1961, when Gary and Sherry leased the building and named it Hicks TV. And Gary was Bernice and Darrell's son. The building was sold in 1988 and was later occupied by Grunwald Appliance. Shown is Hicks's Christmas ad featuring Philco, table radios, and portable stereos, TVs, and clock radios. With trade, you could purchase a portable model. I love this with the cents in there. $127.34. I don't know where that came from.
Taxation.
Does that mean, no, oh, with the tax? Do you think they added the tax to it or something? The business was easy to find, and they used their, described in their ads as being located across from the courthouse. Tragedy struck in 1973 when Gary Hicks was killed in an explosion while tearing down a house. Earlier that year, Sherry had started preparing income taxes, and I think her business is still active today. I don't know, Bonnie, does she still work there? Still preparing taxes? K&K TV and Appliance in Bellevue also sold televisions, as their name indicates. I don't know if that was just kind of a short-lived venture on selling the televisions, because I couldn't find a lot of other advertisements. But prior to us opening up our Bellevue location, we did buy out their parts and equipment. Kyle Electric, located at 103 State Street in Bellevue, sold televisions. The business was purchased from Richard Kyle in 1962. Employees were Ivan, Ike Kyle, Dick Kyle, and Kevin Gladwin. Ivan had won trips for his sales performances. Kelchner Radio and TV sold Motorola and Curtis Mathis. They sold 10 different types of car radios, available in 6 or 8 tube models. I guess I wasn't thinking about those radios back then. Had the tubes, just like TVs did? I don't know. They must have been a lot smaller. Their business was located at 507 East Platte. They were the headquarters for Vornado. I have no idea what product that was they were selling. Vornado, not Vornado, Vornado. Their showroom was air conditioned, as noted in this 1957 ad. And Elvin was the husband of Dorothy Kelchner, but then was Dorothy also married to his brother later?
Yes.
Okay. So Elvin was the first, was Elvin the first husband then?
Right.
Okay. All right. And Dorothy did a lot of volunteering. She was a genie, I believe, here for a number of years. Kelchner Radio and TV. Phone OL 22111 and make a date. I love that ad. You know, we heard about the Kravinoffs when Don Wentworth and Dick and Cheryl presented. So Kravinoff Furniture and Appliance Store sold RCA TVs and radios. Phone was 29R2. Does that ring a bell? What that stands for? E.E. Miner was the proprietor. So I know in that other presentation they talked about how they had started a lot of businesses and then sold them. So possibly this was their business that they sold to Miner, and he just retained that name. Does that sound right?
Kravinoff was there a long time. I remember we used to go up there and look at caskets when my baby sister died. Upstairs. Furniture downstairs.
Okay, furniture downstairs. Well, that would have been fun, unless they had some kind of a walkout to get that downstairs. McCoken and Maytag Company was owned by A.J. Teefy. They sold televisions and radios and were located in the buildings that housed from 108 to 110 West Pleasant. And they probably needed that big showroom because they also sold furniture and appliances. McCoken and Maytag, then at this time, this advertisement, they were located at 205 South Main Street. They advertised our service, your most important asset. Register for a drawing, nothing to buy, not a contest, to win a free $54.74 record library during Zenith premiere days. Phone OL 22571. McCoken Music Company, owned by Bill, did you say that Frey, F-R-E-J, Frey? 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 Sold RCA Victor at 114 North Main Street. They also sold radios. McCoken Music Company's late 1950s ad states, now the experience that built 10 million TV sets and produces TV's biggest advances, 10% brighter, sharper picture, one set electronic fine-tuning, front balance, fidelity, FM sound, transformer powered chassis, printed circuits, keyed AGC for improved weak signal reception. Raise your hand if you all remember weak signal reception. I can remember watching television shows that probably weren't even that good, and I couldn't even tell like it was a man or a woman because it was so snowy. You know, like so those soap operas and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. The Barton, their lowest price table TV is 262 square inches. So they used to go by square inches. And I guess I don't know what that translates to diagonal. And it was available in 4 finishes. Also featured in the Achievement series was the Wayne, a low-price luxury. The Lambert with wireless wizard electronic remote control. And the Hillsdale was extra powerful. I don't even know what that means. Extra powerful. I mean, to have the picture was the, I don't know. RCA Victor is the best known, best liked, best selling TV in America. And at that time, the businesses were competing. So Harold Owen would say the tubes were more reliable. But McCoken Music Company said printed circuits were. So depending on what you were selling. And I think because Harold, I wonder if he started earlier in business. Mayberry TV Appliance and Video, owned by myself and my husband. Article on the right pictures Jim with his mom Nancy. And she helped out while I was in my last year of school. Grand prize winners were Laverne Henneke, Roberta Steinitz, Ruth Hubby, Betty Benhart, Keith Burns, and Lester Lutz. So that year, we purchased it in August, or he did, we weren't married yet, August of 1980. I left for college with a color TV this time. Yeah. And you know that everybody else, and I was in a big dorm, everyone else had black and white. I might have been the only student with a color TV on campus. I'm not sure.
Did you have a car too?
I did not, because my previous year I totaled it. And it's not good to stop at a light when it's green, but the sun was, it was like shining. And if any of you remember my dad, was a really good guy, and totally the insurance company took advantage of that. So we did not get enough money out of that, and I should have got pain and suffering because, I was stopped, 55, getting hit by a 55, and the car that I had at that time was a Gremlin, and they have like no back. They're just, which is probably why my neck still hurts today, It's, but no car. Mayberry's advertisement shown. Okay, so if you bought this satellite system, we were going to give you a free black and white TV. And I think it was like this big, And the price, it says in there that the prices start at $16.79. But we were usually able to step them up to the $2,500 model so that they didn't have to tune it like they used to have to do with the old TVs. And you got a remote control. So they were willing to pay that extra. And at that time, I think all of the channels were free. And you got channels maybe that you didn't want in there. Some ones that were, had pictures you wouldn't want your kids seeing. And then those same channels could come and have an advertisement, I think, on some of the normal channels that you were watching with your family. And so, kind of glad when that went away. So we had customers, and they used to brag about that they own their own satellite, which, technically, yes, Richard?
They still use that for, it's called C-band, so they still use it for free channels, and
Okay.
you gotta point that big, huge honking thing just right to pick stuff up.
But people would say that they own their satellite. What they owned was a satellite dish receiver. So quite a big difference there. Huge difference in price. You can't buy a satellite for $2,500, that's for sure. So our sales on these things mostly occurred in the winter, which was a little bit of a problem because that pole had to have a cement base. So there was some kind of a quick setup, something, I don't know, I never, obviously installed any of them. So then I have to tell you the story about, I'm not going to mention a name, but they were quite wealthy. It was not in Macokota, but they lived in a rural area, kind of their summer home in Jackson County. And she was just all about how things looked. And this $1 million house that they built, she didn't want that big dish in her yard. So we buried 1,000 foot of the cable for a big dish. It's this umbilical cord. It's about the diameter of a quarter. 1,000 feet away from her house, buried it underground. So that cost $1 a foot. So there's $1,000, and then whatever our labor was, and trenching that in and everything. And by the time she got the house done, because she kept making a lot of changes, like once it was even built, she didn't like the roof line, made them redo it. And so I think it took a year to get this house done. And then by that time, those little dishes were out. So at the end of this $1,000 worth of cable, we stick this little dish. And she would have only needed the cable then at that time that cost 10 cents a foot, but I don't think it really mattered, at that time. But that cable was so tough. When we had one at our house, when it was kind of stormy one night, and I kept hearing this yip, yip, and the dog had gotten nervous about being out in the storm, and he kept running around, and then it just flipped him up, how he just kept twisting around in that wire. And so I went out there and tried to cut it, and it's like, you can't cut through that stuff. It was just really, really thick wire. So at that time, we had 3 factory-trained servicemen. We once hired a lady to do TV repair. She was with us for like 2 weeks. She couldn't fix any of them. So it's like, I'm sorry, we had to let her, we just had to let her go. We gave her, a chance. We offered financing with monthly payments. Financing was not available on used items. And I know Friday nights, when everybody was open, Friday nights in the Kokoda, we had quite a few regular customers that came in and they dreamed about owning a used TV someday. They'd come in and they'd look at these TVs every week. So then we kind of got to the point where, we'll let you put it in right away. When you come in to look at it each week, give us $10 or whatever, and then you get it paid for. You can, it'll be yours. So actually, I think we used to just let them buy it on time and take it home, but that never worked out well. Mickles, owned by Bob Mickle, sold Admiral, Sylvania, and Quasar. They were located at 117 South 2nd Street. We bought this inventory after that business closed. Montgomery Ward was owned by Bob Mickle. And I think from the advertisements that I see, I know for sure they were in business from 71 to 74. Then he changed the business to the name Mickle, and of course was no longer selling tires and all of that stuff. He just strictly became then electronics and appliances. So on the right, you see an electronic Pong game. When we bought his inventory, we got a Pong game with our inventory. I don't remember ever selling that. I think maybe it was kind of outdated at that time, because then we had Ataris, which obviously had a much more complex game system. But if we have that, I wish I could find it, because I think it might be worth something. Mr. T's Music and Radio Shack was owned by Dean Tilton, the husband of teacher Karen Tilton, and I believe they sold Xena in the 80s. Does anybody know Tilton? Does anybody remember that? Tilton's?
Yeah.
I remember. OK Tire and Furniture Store, shown at their East Platte Street location. OK Tire Store sold Crosley televisions, similar to the one pictured on the left. Notice the side tuning on this 1955 model. And so I think that's maybe why they kept advertising in later years, you could tune it from the top. Because I suppose if that was sitting down kind of low, you just kind of scrunch down to tune it. OK Tire Store advertisement states, as low as $139.95, easy credit terms, top trade-ins. Corner of Weston, West Platte and 2nd. Just arrived, see them today. The all-new Flair Group with hand span design. And again, what does that mean? Hand span. What does that mean? I get a picture of my hand, like going like this, but what does that have to do with the television? And then Hot Point High Vi, VI. 1959, introduces a new idea for modern living. Finest in TV performance and styling that's years ahead. Later the sound was referred to as hi-fi, but maybe hi-fi has to do with the picture? High vision?
Video.
High video?
Instead of high fidelity for high fidelity super sound, video.
It's
Super
high
picture.
video. Okay, good to know. The owners were John and Gladys Larkey, Phone, Olive, so they must have shortened that later years to OL. So Olive 23847. This newspaper article about OK Tire Store located at 130 West Platte, I almost feel like I read this. Daryl Hicks and Ralph Gertenbach started the business in 1947 after Daryl returned from service overseas in the U.S. Navy. In 1951, Daryl and Bernice Hicks purchased the business from Ralph and Velma. In 1952, Hicks has built a new building and ran the business until 1956. And then that was when John and Gladys Larkey leased the building until 1961. And then Gary and Sherry took over. And then at that time, the article was written, Grunwald Appliance was in that location. OK Tire Store, 1955, Thanksgiving ad reads, the Admiral stereo we are giving away plays 33, 45, and 78 RPMs. It has a dual channel amplifier and 4 speakers. Register today. OK Tire Store next to the fairgrounds. Plenty of free parking. So I guess they were at that location then before they moved. The dates would make sense there. Before they moved to West Platte. So they were on East and then later West Platte. In the fall of 1936, Harold Owen of Owen Radio and TV opened a radio repair shop in the Penrose Goodyear Tire Store. In 1938, along with his radio repair business, Harold worked with Walter Rockroar, wiring farm homes for REA lines. Harold bought his first television in 1948, when the closest stations were Chicago, and again, the reception was poor. On October 31st, 1949, WOC-TV came on the air from Davenport. And on July 1st, 1950, WHBF-TV began broadcasting from Rock Island. The first television set sold in Maquoketa came from Harold's store. He retired from television sales in 1975, but resumed service on a smaller scale until 1983. Over the years, Harold sold Magnavox, Zenith, and Muntz. We also bought out this inventory in 1980, and I think we still have his old testing equipment. If anyone's interested, let me know. Just let you know, we're expecting a lot of money on that. I don't know what it's worth. We tried to get our daughter to advertise it on eBay, and she didn't do it. Owen's radio and TV service advertisement states, Zenith, handcrafted, horizontal chassis, uses no printed circuits. Remember I told you about that? For less service headaches. And I'm sure he had an easier time replacing those tubes than working with those circuits. Brighter, sharper picture with Zenith Sunshine picture tube. Extra value features, 18,000 volts of picture power. Cinelin picture glass, spotlight dial. Pull, push, on, off, control, tone control. See Zenith radios from Owens. New 1959 styling available in grained walnut, mahogany, or blonde oak colors. Owens Radio and TV. We stock parts for everything we sell. And we have some of those. Penrose Annex was first owned by the Penroses and managed by Gene Grunwald. And later, Gene purchased that portion of the business from the Penroses. So Gene, I think most of you probably knew Gene Grunwald. But Gene was so strong. He was able to bear hug a refrigerator, and I think this was even a side-by-side, probably not a 36-inch wide one. My friend witnessed this. She lived in a third-floor attic apartment, and maybe this, for whatever reason, it couldn't go on the cart. Maybe it had to be tipped or something. And he bear hugged that thing all the way up the stairs. I'm just like, I still can't get over that he was able to do that. So their daughter, Anna Lee, was in my class in school. And we would talk different times about, you know, the business and stuff, because they were still in business when we were in business. And she would say, you know, every single holiday was ruined in her house because he always had an emergency service call. And I would guess it was either for a refrigerator or a stove, most likely a stove. And you know, they had, the older ranges like that, they had fuses in the drawers. So maybe it just was a fuse thing. And then I wondered maybe if Sam experienced the same thing, because you know, those holidays, your TV's important too, and gosh, you can't be without that. So he probably got called. We never did, but we didn't have our number. They didn't have our home number. That could be it. Pro TV and Appliances at 130 West Platte Street. Sold Zenith televisions and models similar to this one shown. And that's now, you know, Brad Deary's parking lot. Reed Electronics. And I remember when I first met Mac Reed, and he kind of told us a little bit about why he moved to Maquoketa. And I want to say, I'm not positive, but I want to say it was California. And, I mean, so this was prior to the 70s. And he was concerned about crime in the neighborhood. So, you know, I mean, they had it back then, but nothing like today. So they sold Xena, and Jim bought a radio for me there, and I think we still have that too. And I'm pretty sure it was like $95, so radios were expensive back then. So I found ads that he was in business anywhere from 73 to 78. He was not in business when we were in business, so by 1980, he was doing something else, and maybe he retired, I'm not sure. Or no, he went to work for like a Swatties, that was it.
He was that owner.
He was the owner, that's right. RCS Computer and Television was located at Westgate Plaza and sold LG televisions. He's now located near Subway, still sells computers. I don't know if he still sells TVs or not. Western Auto Associate Store sold Coronado televisions as pictured in their ad. The ad states they also sold True Tone radios, including clock and car radios and True Tone televisions. D.E. Yoakum was the owner, I believe from 1947 to 1978, located at 103 South Main. Western Auto Family Days sale advertisement. This Continental Lowboy console brand, and the brand was not listed, so I don't know what it is. Strictly modern, incomparable styling, performance to match, brilliant, 21-inch aluminized picture tube with tinted safety glass. Surge check tube saver, so this, he was still selling one with tubes. Push button on-off switch, variable range selector for perfect viewing in all areas. Lustrous mahogany finish. Blonde finish was just $10 more. And get this, if you bought that TV, you got a free globe. I wish, you know, that's probably a big deal. Give a gift that the family can enjoy. Television, radios, record players, hi-fi sets, appliances, and sewing machines. Western Auto is your one-stop Christmas shopping headquarters for the entire family. Over 2,500 gifts to choose from at competitive prices. Phone OL 23423. Yeager TV and Appliance, advertising in 1967, their new location. Merlin and Carol Yeager sold RCA televisions. Television through the decades. As pictured, the Octagon in 1928, the Baird in 1930, the Emmy Visor and Kosser in 1936, Marconi in 1928. Are you familiar with these names? Okay, RCA shown in 1939 and 1946, Motorola, 1948. And those cabinets were much larger than the television screen. A Raytheon portable TV from 1949 is pictured, and a 1953 Sharp model. Also shown in 1957 Rogers model with legs, and a 1958 Philco tabletop model. Families used to gather around the living room TV set. In the late 40s and early 50s, families did not have multiple televisions at that time. We've come a long way with the variety of television channels offered today. I remember growing up with the 3 networks. This advertisement, in 1945, Sunday, January 28th, station WABD offered 3 programs that day. So at 8 o'clock, you could watch Sham, starring Frida Eisencourt. At 8:30, The Queen was in the kitchen. And at 9 o'clock, it just says film. 3 days later, there were 2 programs that were aired. And the following day, there were 3 more shows you could watch. Macy's Teleshopping with Margaret Manning. I had no idea they were, you could shop the TV. Obviously, you couldn't give me your credit card. So I'm wondering how effective that was, because you had a little bit of time to think about it before you sent your check away or got a money order. So I didn't know. Did any of you shop way back in the day? Sue.
Sue, I got a question for you. The show with the Queen in the kitchen. I wonder if that was a cooking show?
I don't know. That would make sense. A cooking show, Queen in the kitchen.
Queen in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of those energy efficient ones, few steps, Yeah. And then it goes on to say at the bottom, you can't read it, a test pattern is on 1/2 hour before showtime each Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And every Wednesday between 3 and 5 p.m. Just in case you missed it those other days, Programs are subject to change without notice. You must remember this. And this. And this. Can you name these 1940s TV shows? So here's where I'm asked for audience participation. And there is one that, I was telling you I had a little bit of trouble with this program. There's one for some reason, it's just gone, it wasn't in there. So I've got the picture, I have no idea what show it is. So I'm hoping you can help me out. Okay, ready?
Fred and Ollie. Riley.
Okay, now this is the mystery photo.
Riley, I think. That's before my time.
I think it's candid camera, but I'm not sure. And that is the lady from the Honeymooners. And I even Googled then, trying to find out who she was. Okay, so we may never know on that.
Oh, that's, remember that show.
Somebody said it. The Ed Wynn Show. Yeah.
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. You get rich doing that.
Can you see his picture well enough to know? Man against crime. I'm not familiar with that one, but he was quite a popular, I can't think of his name now, actor.
Move that up again.
Somebody said it.
Maury Amsterdam.
Yeah, the Maury Amsterdam show.
I know.
Okay, I'm just going to read off some other ones. Raise your hand if you remember these. The Jack Benny program. Jim and Judy in Teleland. The Armed Forces Hour. Howdy Doody.
Yes.
Kraft Television Theater. 20 Questions. Crusader Rabbit. The Original Amateur Hour.
Oh, yes.
Hourglass. Stop the Music. Your Witness. The Schoolhouse. Ripley's Believe It or Not was on back then. Hopalong Cassidy.
Yes.
Perry Como.
Yes.
And Play the Game. Popular shows in the 1950s. Ready?
I love Lucy. Danny Thomas Show. Father Knows Best. Leave to Beaver. Barry Mason. Donna Reed.
Popular TV shows in the 1960s.
My Three Sons. The Beverly Hillbillies. Norma High, USMC. Gilligan's Island. Hayden Place.
Yes.
Carol Burnett Show.
Popular TV shows in the 1970s.
Bob Hope. Rockford Files.
Actually, no. Different than Bear. Chimp. BJ and the Chimp. Hence the chimp. You know, chimp. Okay, so that was the last of those. The popular TV shows in the 1980s included game shows like Jeopardy, which aired in 1984, comedies like Mork and Mindy, Seinfeld, and the Golden Girls. Probably all remember those. And then came the 1990s. We had dramas, ER, airing in 1994, Law and Order, 1990, comedies, Home Improvement, 1991, and Mad About You in 1992. So there's quite a contrast in how we viewed TVs in the 1920s compared to how we view them, today. I think the biggest thing too is, we can watch a show when we want to watch it instead of having to be home. I think that's probably, and these are shows maybe we want to watch. Before I think you just watched what was on because that was it. You didn't have a choice. Some unusual TV models are shown, and we meant to get over to the museum because I think probably there's some unusual ones at the main museum. The one on the right, that looks like the Jetsons would have had that TV set. I just think that's cool, but I think it would have bothered me because it's so, it's not symmetrical. I think to watch that, I wouldn't have liked that.
I think that was one that was mid-century. Modern was
Yes, it could be mid-century
all that
modern.
weird shapes.
So there were even designer TVs. I know that ad, it shows the paint and the brushes, but I think you just bought those panels, probably just like a peel and stick maybe. Did anybody ever own one like that you could change the color? The early brands. Here are some of the first brands to come on the market. Admiral, featuring revolutionary new cylindrical face picture tube that stops annoying reflections. This model had a pull-out drawer containing a record turntable. This triple play phonograph could play up to 5 hours of recorded music on one loading. I don't remember having a record player like that. It seemed like we had to, maybe they stacked for a while, but I don't remember 5 hours even in the 60s. And there was the Triple Thrill, which housed a television, stereo, and AM/FM radio all in one. This 21-inch cabinet model sold for, the one on the left is the 21-inch, and it sold for $795. I didn't put the date on that, but that goes back a ways. Admiral Portable with the carrying handle. Capehart. There's more to television than meets the eye when you own a Capehart. I don't know what that means either, but it really sounds impressive. You know, it sounds really good. Homer E. Capehart was a politician who served as a Republican senator from Indiana, and he grew wealthy on selling the electronics. Crosley brings you big picture television, not 7, not 10, but big 12-inch picture tube. I gotta laugh about that one. Plus it had a built-in radio. It's hard to think of 12 inches as being large, you know? But I guess it was. Curtis Mathis was sold by Elvin Kelcher. They were located in Park Plaza, located at 115 South 2nd. And that business did experience a fire at that location. Emerson claimed to be the world's clearest television. And here's a Fisher advertisement. GE televisions with new life rectangular picture tube. Black daylight television. The 17-inch GE puts new life in life size. Now here's where I don't have my notes. You have to bear with me. Motorola had a sensational standout picture. And that ad, lets you see what it looks like on the inside, which is too hard for you to see from there. TV happiness shared by all the family with the Motorola TV. And it's got all the list of all the great features down below, which I can't read from here. Muntz. So Muntz TV, this was a 1953 model shown on the left. And this is Earl Madman Muntz. So Earl Madman Muntz was like this kind of a crazy guy, and I think it was Jack Benny that used to kind of make fun of him, but for whatever reason now I've forgotten, he just, the stuff that he made, just kind of became obsolete, and everyone else was kind of passing him by with their new innovations. Philco TVs. Even the back is beautiful, as shown on the ad on the left. And they had wraparound sound. And then I kind of remember these ads from Philips. It's supposed to be, it's so real, so lifelike that, she thinks there's a mouse in the house. And the cat thinks that's really a fish. Not to mention that it's, 2 feet off the ground. But, Quasar, their advertisement was works in a drawer. And we sold TVs when they were still works in the drawer. And then later we sold ones like that red one, and I think that also came in pink and yellow, and I forgot what the other colors were. RCA Victor's anniversary model. Not sure what size screen that is, but it does not look very big. It looks like probably that chair that's right beside it. You just flip it around and probably sit right in front of it to watch it. For $199.95. RCA Victor. So theirs has, raise your hand if you've seen a TV like that where, are you seeing the TV? You're lifting it up and there it is. And that looks like that'd be kind of awkward too. I mean, how did you view that? If you were 2 feet away, I think it'd be kind of hard. So your chair wouldn't sit up that high. Oh, it does say here it's large. It's saying it's. I'm wrong. Correct me. It's saying that it's a large television picture. Black and white. It is 7 3/8 by 9 3/4. So that was large. I was wrong. That's not small. That's large. Satchel Carlson. The Satchel Carlson Company was a manufacturer of radios, electronic equipment, and televisions from 1928 until the 60s. The company was founded in St. Paul, Minnesota, and their first product was a car radio. And I'm trying to think, there was a picture of that wooden refrigerator from the other museum. Was that it's called a Satchel Carlson? It's the same name as one of these TV names. I can't remember. I think it was. It's either that or it's a Stuart Warner. The company took the name Satchel Carlson in 1934 and made consumer radios. And you can see the one in the middle, the 1957 model, has a pull-out turntable. And then there's the Spartan, which, look at that TV on the left. I think that's kind of cool. That's very, very modern. Yeah. And even the radios are a little bit more modern looking. It says featured by America's Better Stores. Maybe that's, maybe that's why we didn't hear about them as much. Maybe they weren't like in the hardware stores and stuff. Maybe it had to be like a high-end furniture store. Spartan Cosmic Eye Television. And Spartan was the first choice for TV engineers, decorators, and dealers. And there's the all-new Spartan on the right. And they are a division, though it says, of the Magnavox company. So it must have been like their Cadillac brand. Oh, here, so I answered my question. So here's the Stuart Warner. So I believe that refrigerator is what's down at the museum. And as Bonnie explained to me, when electricity became available, not all families could buy the electric stove and get the refrigerator. So sometimes they just opted for, this is still an icebox, but it looks like, you have an electric refrigerator. But it's wooden. You said it's wooden. Okay. So it doesn't look wooden from here, but it is. And you can even see that bottom right here. It looks like that tilts out. So you had storage down below. I don't know if that's where you put your, or you think it's a drip pan? Almost looks like they're putting groceries in the bottom there. First and only Sylvania. First and only from Sylvania, reflection-free portable TV. And then this one's called, on the right, the Slim Jim. And remember, in the advertisement, I can't read it very well here now, but it said, you can park it on a dime. And again, it's like, what does that even mean? You can set it in, you can set it in a tight space, I guess. It's just, some of these things they come up with. Sylvania, movie clear, television reception, and the halo light. Science points the way to better viewing. And so that light was kinder on your eyes. Westinghouse. Now the tuning was so easy on that, you could do a blindfolded. For a clear picture of the presidential nominations, see the Westinghouse telecast of the political conventions over CBS TV. And that had the electronic clarifying. And this kind of brings back memories. No streaks, because remember we used to have streaks. No flutter. Remember how annoying the flutter was, but what was worse, and it says no here, the flop over. Do you guys remember the flop over? It would, Then you couldn't. Then no matter how good or how much you wanted to watch that show, if you had that flop over going on, it's just like you might as well just listen to it, because you're not going to see anything. The Zenith Radio Corporation of Chicago, Illinois, made the first portable radio in 1924. And they were the first to come out with the black and white TV, color TV, and the remote control. So the remote control, when those first came out, the inventory that we had, they were sound remotes. And every time we shut the file cabinet drawer, which we did like every 10 minutes, it would turn on the TVs. It emitted that same sound at that sensor. So that was like really so annoying, because then you had to go around and, you know, turn them all off. But then later they came out with the infrared remotes. And with the infrared, it's like, I think that's probably still what they use today. It's actually sending a wave, you know, a light wave signal. But then there was the Space Command that came out with. And this had all of the, you know, of course it had all the numbers on it, so you could use it as a telephone. So I was waiting on somebody on Friday night. He wasn't looking at used, he was looking at the new. He had money to buy the new. And I was telling him, you know, the Space Command, and you can just call, you can call somebody right here with this remote. He goes, well, let me call my wife. And so he did that. And you know, it's kind of late, you know, it's, I don't know, maybe 7 o'clock at night. I think he was probably late for dinner. And man, did she lit into him like you would not, and it's coming through the TV speaker. We're hearing it all. Everybody in the room. I never let anybody call and use that remote again. It's just, I'm not going through that. And the guy just kind of stood there, you know, just kind of laughed and said, you know, I'll be home shortly. You know? So, and he said, you know, I'm calling from the remote. And so, I don't know, she thought maybe he was drinking too. You know, not only is he late for dinner, but he's going to come home and not want to eat because he's been drinking. So this is a Zenith Mayflower from 1949 with a 10-inch screen. And Zenith advertising the top tuning rather than on the side. And that's kind of a weird looking TV. And you can operate, here you go, with your remote control. That would have been probably that sound remote. Operate it right from your easy chair. The Miracle something tuner is the secret, and only Zenith has it.
So what year would those be with the remotes? What do you think?
For this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it was way before the 80s. I would think they had them in the 60s. They probably just weren't affordable. And then you've got the more modern styling. We sold a lot of this type of TV. And then there's the Archie Bunker. This is what we called it. So when we'd go to TV shows, and even though Mediterranean, you know, that is no longer in style, it hadn't been in style for 20 years, our customers wanted Mediterranean, they wanted early American, they wanted something that had the most little nooks and crannies that were the hardest to dust. Those were the ones people wanted. And then, when the TV quit working, they still wanted to keep that cabinet. So they either bought a portable from us and put it on top, or they'd get us to throw it in on the deal. We take that picture tube out. They put shelves in there. They could repurpose it.
I have one of those in my spare bedroom.
Yeah, people did not want to get rid of those. And sometimes they'd say, well, I don't want to pay to have you take the picture tube out. And we would say, well, you know, you can do it yourself, but you shouldn't do it yourself. Because if you touch that tube in the wrong spot, it stores voltage, even unplugged. It would be enough to knock you across the room. I don't know if to kill you, but you know, you shouldn't do it. So that's the Archie Bunker. TV benefits. So they were trying to tell people that, yes, it benefits your children. And when we were selling televisions, we knew back then it really wasn't good for your kids. And we did not allow our kids to have TVs in their bedrooms. And can you imagine all the whining but all my friends, you know, have a TV in their bedroom. And I said for all they knew, you know, we could just take one home for free. I mean, they're right there. They're in the store. Why can't I have one of these for my room? But we never allowed that. And there, everybody's happy. The guy that sold the TV probably made a lot of money. I think there was a good margin back then. And the husband, you know, yeah, made his wife happy. Everybody's happy. So, thank you very much. I guess I should have asked if there's any questions. To bring back some memories. Aren't you glad now you have clearer pictures to watch?